Does anyone remember what we learned last week? We get a volunteer to talk about that. April, do you remember what we learned last week? Okay, pattern. Okay, April, go ahead.
We were downloading PyCharm and we did the input thing where we had x is equal to input and then it had the thing in the quotes. And if you run it, then it does that.
That's wonderful, yes. We learned how to get user input. So that's the input. So in the Python, if you want to get user input, you just use the built-in input function. So let me share my screen. Okay, so let me share my screen. And if I go to Google and we say Python built-in functions, and then if the most recent version is 3.9.1, you see input. You see here, you see the built-in function. So if you click on it, that will explain what it does. So we learned some built-in functions the week before last week. So actually, the current one, input, is also one of the built-in functions. Now let's just look deeply into it. Deeply into it. So what do we got? What do we got? I should say, what data types do we got if we ask the user to input something? So let's try something here, okay? So let me give you the code. All right, so let me give you this code. You say, think about how we can get a number input from the user. Type in 12 and see what happens. So let me give you the code first. And then I ask you to run this code and see what happens. Okay, go ahead and copy this code and put it into your PyCharm. Okay, there's 3 lines of code. So let me run it. Let me save my code and let me run it. It asks me to input a number, right? Enter a number. So let me do that. Let me enter 12, see what happens. If I hit enter, I got a problem. So can anyone help me why I get a problem? So if you do not get a problem, can you raise your hand and then we can discuss. Does every one of you get a problem? If not, can you raise your hand? Let's try that.
I don't have a problem.
You do not have a problem. So let me take a look at it then. Let me stop sharing. Let me take a look at your screen. Okay, did you type in the number? Can you type in the 12 now? You need to type in the output window, yeah, over there, yeah. Do you get one?
Yeah.
Good. So why is it good? So because you are supposed to get a problem. And then can anyone help me why we get a problem? Does anyone wants to volunteer and help me on that? Hunt, why do I get a problem? Aunt. Who can help me?
I don't know.
Okay. Excuse me. All right. So let me talk about that. So what we are going to learn is that. So I will say, what data type we got if we use it? Input a function. Input function actually will give you a string. Even though you type in a number here, it will treat this number as a numeric string. Numeric string. Okay. So we found the problem. We face a problem now here. I wanted to get a number, but actually the system gave me a string. So how can I solve this problem? Pattern.
I think you have to put the int thingy, the int command.
Great. Wonderful. You are exactly right. So let me move to the next slide. You're so smart, Pattern. So let me move to the next slide. You say the input function get a string. We need to convert it to a number. Type in 12 and now see what. So you say, what did I do? I put the enter here. That will convert a numeric string to an integer. So then we can do the addition. Okay. All right. So let's do it together. So I'm not going to give you the code. So you watch what I'm doing, and then I want you to do it as what I'm doing. Y equal to enter y. Okay. So I just add this number here. I convert the number to an integer. Okay, let me save my code and then let me run it again now. So I type in 12. What I got. Oh, sorry. I did it wrong. I should convert X because X stores the value from the user input. Y is already an integer. Okay, so let me do that. Then let me run it again. I type in 12. I get a 22. So you all should get 22 if you type in 12. Of course, if you type in a different number, then you will get a different value. But at least we solve the problem. We solve the problem. So you understand now if you use input method, or we say input built-in function, what you get is a string. And if you want to use it as a number, you have to convert it. How do you convert it? You use the int function, but careful. All right, so let me run it again, and I want you to watch my screen. Run it. Now I will type in ABC. You see, I got a problem. Why do I get a problem this time? Why do I get a problem this time? Let me ask Alexia. Why do I get a problem this time?
Because it's not a number.
You're wonderful. Yes, great. It's not a number because I wanted to get a number, but the user is not cooperative. The user give me a string, and that string cannot be converted to a number. So that is why. Good job. Let's move on. Yes, Patton.
Are you able, I think you're able to put int in front of the input.
You are correct. Yes, you can directly do it that way. Yes. All right. So what a pattern meant is that, look at my screen, put it enter here directly, okay? Put it there. And then you can save this line of code. That's a very good suggestion. So let me try it again this time. Let me run it. Okay, let me type in 20 this time. What I got, 30, exactly 30, right? So you can directly put it into here. So you convert whatever the user input it to an integer. And remember, this could fail because sometimes the user is just trying to be out of control. They wanted to break your application. So they wanted to type in anything. Even if you ask them to type in a number, they are not listening. So you need to have some code to handle it. And that skill we are going to learn probably in the end of this semester. Okay, based on our current pace. We will learn it in the end of the semester. But we do have a skill to handle it. Okay, then let's move on then. All right, you can also cast the number to a string. Okay, type in 12, and I think that one we already learned it. So I'm not going to ask you guys to try it. But you just remember, if you do input and what you get is a string, you use int to convert it to a number. Of course, you can use float to convert it to a floating number. Okay. So just remember that what you got is a string. All right. If you do not have a question, so we are moving to a brand new and a high level topic. So I think we are good. We have enough knowledge. Now we are going to learn something very useful. So what is it? Look at this screen, okay? So we're going to learn code block. How do you organize your code? Okay. So let me just give you this code and I want you to try it. And then we will talk about that. Let's see what different from what we have learned so far. All right, let me give you the code first. All right, so you replace all the code here. Let me use WordPad to help me. Formatting it. All right, so you see, I got this one. Let me run it. What we got? This output we got. But do you see any difference? So what things look strange to you, or you have not learned so far? Can we talk about that? Anything you can talk about it, okay? So anything you saw this that are new to you, or strange to you, or look weird to you, just read it up, okay? Speak out, let me know. All right, so who wants to talk about it?
I have something different on my screen.
Yes.
Should I share my screen?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. The reason is that I think you have the formatting is not good. So let me give you the code with a good format. Okay, can you stop sharing now? So let me give you the code. So use this code because I don't know why it does not give me the good format in the PowerPoint file. But right now you should get the good formatting. So I use WordPad to convert the format. All right. So when you look at the code now, tell me what is strange to you. Let me share my screen again. So this is a code. What are new here? What we do not know. Let me ask Ryan. Ryan, do you see anything weird here? Anything different?
On the left side of the equal sign, there's a comma for the variable.
Wonderful. Yes, that's something new or different. Good. Anything else? April? April.
I don't know.
All right. So who knows? So Kathleen, do you see anything different?
The answer to the code is all mixed up with numbers.
Okay. So let me talk about this. Okay. So here you see the difference. So the first one, that's right. Ryan mentioned it. So here is in the Python. So what we do on the left-hand side, you get two variables. On the right-hand side, then you have two values. So you assign 0 to A, assign 1 to B. So that's the assignment that happens in the Python. Okay, you got two. This is the tuple. Okay, you got two variables, and you assign the value that way, and the same thing happens here. Okay, so that means now after this line of code, A has B's value. You assign B's value to it. B now has a new value. What is this value? It is the original A's value plus original B's value. Right? And you see, every time you run the loop, okay? So I'm going to talk about it. This, you see, you have space here, right? And you have space here. If you do not have a space, let's see what happens, okay? Move the space out. What happens? The system does not like it. The system say you have a problem. Why you have a problem? And that's what we are going to learn today, right? So that's what we are going to learn today. So let's move on. All right, so Kathleen, can you help me read this paragraph? Kathleen.
A code block is used to organize a block of code, one line or more, to do a specific process. It is organized by indentation. See a while loop code block below.
Okay, so it's very important to understand this. It is organized by indentation. Okay, so now you see we organize it. So we indented. So that means these two lines of code belongs to this while loop. This is a while loop. We are going to learn while loop next week. Okay, but we first will come here to learn the formatting. So you see, this is in a loop. It's a code block. The code block, you see, in the beginning of the code block, you have a colon in the end of that line. In the end of that line. And then you indent, all the code that belongs to this block. And then you will say, oh, I know it. I'm very smart. Let's do it here. Let me create a block. Let me do it this way. I will say now A equal to 0. You see the system likes it or not? The system does not like it. So that means you cannot create a block at your own will. There are some limitations there. Okay, Hunter, let me see let me stop sharing. So can you share yours to me? Yeah, can you enter number because you still have the old code there, so it is waiting for you to enter number. Just enter number, yeah. So now you got it. You need to remove the line 1 to line 3. You don't need those. Okay. Okay. So this issue reminds me. So I need to tell you, if you use input, okay, the system will suspending execution of your code. When your system run into the statement or the function called input, the system will stop at that moment. It waits for you to type in something. It will be there for as long as the waiting time. So you do not type anything, and it will just wait there. It will just wait there until you type in something and hit Enter key. Okay, until you hit Enter key, then your system will continue to execute the code. Good thing. Good thing. Thank you, Hunt. Okay, move on. All right, you see, you cannot generate a code block using your own imagination. Only some keywords that is allowed by Python will generate the code block. Here, like the while keyword here. While is a code block, okay? It's called a loop, a while loop. So that means it will have multiple lines of code to form a block. So that's why you need to indent it. All right, let's move on. So move on to this one. So we tried this one. If we do not indent it, you get a problem because a while loop, it requires a block of code. So you have to indent it. The code belongs to while loop. All right, so let me go to the next one. So the first code block we are going to learn is condition, or we say decision making. Okay, so what condition? So please type in and I will check. So what do I want you to do? So you need to do the code. Let me give you this code and you run it and then type in something. Okay, let me just give you the code here. Go ahead and copy that code and replace everything here. Replace everything like this. Okay, let me save my code and I'm going to run it. Okay, so let me type in -1. You see what I got. You see, my computer now is smart. It says negative number. Negative number. Okay. This is a negative number. Do you see that? It's a negative number. Because I typed in the -1. And then can you look at this? Look at the code. And this condition starts with an if keyword. That's with the if keyword. So the if keyword is a condition. Let me unmute you, okay?
Mine looks weird.
Can you share yours? Your code is good. Can you save your code and run it again? Save your code, save it, yeah. Did you save your code? Okay, not type in the number. Go down, type in your number, type in number. Yeah, type in the number and then hit enter key. You see it gives you positive number, right? You type in, not type in. Can you run it again? Type in the negative number this time, or you can type in 0. Right? It works, right? So you see, so this is very important. We are really not learning how to programming because we have a human intelligence coded in our application. So you say you ask the user to type in a number. Okay, ask the user to type in a number, give you a number, and then now you make a decision. You check if this number is larger than 0, then you execute that line of code. You say this line of code is a block of this one. Okay. You see this there has a column here, and if it's not okay larger than 0, so you check another decision, a condition. If it's less than 0, okay, you see this is another block. You see they are also indented, right? You see indented. And if you know if both have not been satisfied, then you say else. So whatever, then you do this. So let me run it again. Let me type in 0. So you see it says 0, right? So you see it is smart. So it's this kind of block. We call it a condition block. So why do we use condition block? This is very important. Let's say I'm a teacher. I have 20 students in my class. I will say all the students whose last name starts with S. So then I need to put some condition here. I will say last name starts with S. Then I will have that student have a meeting with me at 5 o'clock. And then else if the student's last name starts with T, then the students will have a meeting with me at 6 o'clock. Right? So that's a decision. Right, Kathleen, you are good. You're so smart. Do you want to share your code? And then you wanted to run it? Can you share your code, share your screen? Yeah. Okay, thanks. All right, so yeah, pattern, yes.
How many ELIF can you have?
That's a good question. Yeah, I will talk about that. So let me move on. So I will address your question in the slide. Okay. You see, this is the format of a condition block. Okay. And then you understand how important the Boolean value and the Boolean expression are. Because if you want to write conditions in your application, you see, you do a lot of Boolean expression, you do a lot of comparison, and the value, and you see here, let me come back here. So this is a comparison. So this, if it is true, so if this value equal to true, this is executed. If this is equal to true, it is executed. Okay. So that's all Boolean value. So the result of this expression is a Boolean value. Only if it evaluates to true, then that block will be executed. Okay. So let's move on. Let's move on. So you have a lot of ways to write that. You say you can use equal, not equal, and this is the member check, and this is an is, and this is not false. All those are Boolean expression. Okay. All we say is a comparison. Okay. So you got a Boolean value. All right. So let's come back to Patton's question. So I wanted to get someone to read this for me. So Patton, can you read this paragraph?
Condition block checks if a condition is satisfied, that block of code will be executed. The rest will be ignored. So it is better to make the conditions check mutual exclusive.
Okay, so what does it mean? So let me show you, okay? Here you have the one if, and then two else if. So what a Patton asked is that how many else if can we have? You can have as many as you want. As many as you want. But you need to have an if statement first. And then else if, else if, else if. And then you have an else. Okay. And let me give you what does it mean. So what does it mean? So let me give you the code first. Can you use this code? Okay. Can you use this code? And what I want you to type in is 5. Okay. And you see this trick here. Okay. So let me run the code. Let me run it. I want you to watch my screen. If I put a 5 here, you see positive number is printed out today. But of course, the number type in is larger than 2. But why this one is not printed out? Why it is not printed out? The reason is exactly like what this slide says. So condition block checks if a condition is satisfied. If a condition is satisfied, so no matter what it is, once a condition is satisfied, it will execute that block right away. Then it will ignore the whole thing, the rest of the whole block, and jump out. Okay, and finish the entire block as long as one condition is satisfied. That means, okay, if I change this to 0, okay, less than 0, let me change this to larger than 0. Okay, you will see negative number is printed out but this one will not be printed out. So let me do that. Let me type in 6. You see, this condition is satisfied, and then this is printed out. Though this is also satisfied, but this is not printed out. Why? Because once it executes this block, it will think the whole condition block, the entire thing here has been complete. It will not go look into this one. It does not bother to check the rest of it. So remember, the condition, it will check from the top to the bottom. As long as one is satisfied, it will ignore the rest of it. So that's why it's very important to remember the rest will be ignored. So it is better to make the condition check mutual exclusive. So you see here, this one and this one is not mutual exclusive. So if it's larger than 0, it could be larger than 2 as well, right? So that is 1. That is 1. So it can ignore it. So remember that. Any question on this? Any question? Yes, Patton.
Is there a way to make the loop check everything?
It will not. So it will, you cannot make it, because that's how for you to organize the condition, right? So when you write your program, you always think, okay, this condition, this condition, this condition, you only want your system to execute one scenario. One scenario. If that one is done, it is done. If you really wanted to make it to check everything, the way to do it is always do it this way, okay? If, and then you also do if, and then you do another if. So you put everything just like if. But doing this, it's costly, because you ask your computer to check everything. So it has to check everything. So that will use a lot of resource to do it, right? If this is a mutual exclusive, then it's much better. It will not bother. It will not bother to do those useless checks if you make it mutual exclusive, okay? All right, let's move on. All right, so this is a complete form of condition block. So what is complete form? You have the if, else if. You can have as many else if as you want. You can only have one if, and you can have one else. You cannot have multiple else, but you do not have to have the else. You do not have to have the else, but you must have the if. You must have the if. Okay? The simplest is this. It's the most simple, the simplest. It's just have the if. You have no else if, you have no else. That's the simplest form, but you have to have an if. Make sense? Let me check. So April, does this make sense?
Yes, this makes sense.
Good. Let's move on then. Okay. You see here, I have the condition x equal to 10, y equal to 3. If x larger than y, print out this. So this is the simplest. This is the simplest if condition, if block. The simplest. You just have one if statement. You do not have else if. You do not have else. Okay. All right. So let's move on then. You can nest a condition block into another condition block. So you see here, okay, you have this if here, but within this if, you have another if, and you must make sure your indentation is correct, okay? So this if else statement is a part of this if block, okay? So that's why you have to indent it. But this block, this line of code is part of this if statement. So you have to indent it further. You have to indent it further. Okay, so let me give you the code and I want you to try it. So you can nest a condition into another. And nest it. So you say I will input X, I will input Y, and then you see what we get. And you can try different scenarios, okay? Let me use X equal to 6. Let me use Y equal to -1. Okay, you see what I got? Not positive. Because you say Y is not larger than 0. Then this condition is not satisfied. I do not have an else if statement, so that's why else will take the rest. So that's why the print out is not positive. But if I do input both positive numbers, let me put a 9 and I put a 5, and you see what the print out, all positive, X is larger, right? So here, so this condition also is executed. All right, so that's the nested condition. Yes, pattern.
So for earlier when y was a negative, wouldn't x still be larger than y? So why didn't it print out x is larger?
Which one?
So for the earlier when y was a negative, x was a positive, x was still bigger than y, but it didn't print out x is larger.
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so can anyone help me on that? Ryan, can you help me on it? Okay, pattern. The reason is that because this condition is not satisfied, so the whole block is skipped. It will not bother get into to execute it because this condition, okay, this condition is a part of this block. It's part of that condition. If this condition is not satisfied, the whole thing here will not be executed because it does not satisfy. It does not satisfy this condition. So that means it's very important, okay? It is very important to indent it. Indent it. So you see this indentation makes this condition part of that condition. So that's why we see this nested condition. It is nested. All right. Any other questions? Pattern, that's a very good question. All right, so let's move on. I'm not sure if we do have time to do this exercise. Let me do quiz first, okay? Given the nested if else structure below, what will be the value of X after code execution completes? So what is X value? Let me get a lecture. What is this value now after this code is executed? What do you get?
Give me 1 second.
Okay, Hunt, what is that then?
Would you
Hunt?
get would you get an error because it doesn't satisfy if?
It does not give you an error. So let's do
It
that.
gives you
Okay.
0 then still?
It's not. So let me just run it. Okay, X equal to 0, A equal to 0, B equal to -1. Okay, so Kathleen, what is your answer then?
I think it's 2.
You are correct. That's great. And why it is true? Can you help me?
Because you're saying that the x is equal to 0 and the a is equal to 0 and then the b is equal to -5. And then now it says if a is bigger than 0, then you do if b is smaller than 0. And then the x equals x plus 4 is part of the if b is smaller than 0. So you do a new ELIF and then you type in a is bigger than 5. And then the x equals x plus 4 is again connected to the ELIF. And then you do an else if something else is like that.
So you get it right now answer, but yeah, pattern. Yes.
Because if a is greater than 0, anything under it is going to be if a is greater than 0. If that's true, then anything under it will work. But since a is not greater than 0, it's only the last question, which is x equals x plus 2. And since x equals to 0, that means the answer must equal to 2.
All right, exactly. That's what I wanted to get from you. So, Kathleen, you have the right answer, and Patton, you did a very good explanation. Because this condition is not satisfied. If this is not satisfied, the whole thing it is a part of this block. Get ignored. The system will not bother go into it to do all that calculation. It will say, no, that's not what you want. It will just go to this one because you do not have an else if statement. You only have the else. So it goes to the else and do this. And x equal to x plus 2. X original value is 0. 0 plus 2 equal 2. You assign 2 to x. So that's why it is 2. Good job. Next one. What is the output of the following if statement? What is that? I only get one volunteer. So let me call Ryan. Ryan, so what is the answer? A or B?
B.
Can you explain it to me why you get a B? B is the right answer.
Because A and B are integers, so you can add them together.
Okay. All right, so let me explain a little bit more. If the class does not have anything to add, then I will explain it. So because we say if, that means this will be a Boolean value. It will check this if it's a Boolean or not. In the Python, we said only if it is 0, then it is false. Any other number, okay, it will be treated as true because this is satisfied. The 12 plus 5. So it is a positive number. So it will be treated as true. So this will be printed out as true. Okay. And it will check the condition. So it depends on this condition. Good work. Very good. So let's do some homework. All right. So what do you want to do? Ask the user to input a sentence with at least 30 letters. If the input has less than 30 letters, space is not counted. Ask the user to input it again. After you get a satisfied input, find out the middle letter and its position. Say you have 35 letters. The middle is the 18th one. If you have 36, then both 18th and the 19th are the middle letters. Okay? So that's what you need to do. Do you have any question about the homework? All right, so let me ask again. Anyone have question about the homework?
Can you post it in classwork on Google Classroom, please?
Yes, I will do that. I will post the homework in the Google Classroom, and I will ask you guys to get this done by Saturday. All right, so if you guys do not have question, I think we have a great class today. So you are dismissed.
By Saturday?
Saturday, yes. All right, so you guys are dismissed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you. See you next week.
See you next week.